Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. We are back out on the farm to do a little bit more cutting. I realized that a day like today, and really this weekend, it's only been a couple of days since I was last out here doing a video. The weather is just too good to pass up. Same thing, low 30s to low 40s throughout the day. Almost no wind. It's just awesome. I'm out here in the kind of main holding plot. If you saw our last video, I was referencing bedding and how we're trying to move that doe bedding closer and closer to this food, really as close as we can, so that we have more room for that buck bedding in the back. But I also wanted to give you just a little snippet of the food plot and what it's looking like right now. This was, partial clover, which you can see is still green and kind of neat throughout here, as well as some tillage radish, peas and beans, and top dressed with rye about 4 weeks after planting. Planted August 6th. I know I said I would check on that date for you guys. I did. Another cool thing, as you guys dial in your plantings, and I think that that's a good target for anyone really in our region, but the bulbs in our brassica plots, they're not as mushy yet. I know it's only January, but still to see the deer, if you can see that, chomping away at times on these bulbs is pretty nice. But yeah, still very green. Deer are still using it. In addition, of course, you can see the switchgrass, and I'm going to be actually adding a plot even farther closer to the furthest edge of my property, so that again, we're expanding things and we're really taking up as much room as we can in beneficial ways. And I'll probably again do some mowing through the switch to kind of tailor the deer to the paths that I want them to take. Maybe punch a hole through the finger of woods there, and add an archery stand, something that gives them easy access, path of least resistance through the trees, but also not so narrow that they feel so constricted and don't want to go through. I find at times, guys, and I'm sure you probably notice this as well, but like, you see a finger of woods like this, and it's only 20 to 30 feet wide, and you're kind of thinking, when it's so thick, the deer would rather just go around it. But when pressure starts hitting, they'll start funneling into the tightest little gaps, running these fingers right by you where you can't even see. But vice versa, easily times in the year where there are some pinch points that are super easy for them to access, but it also feels a little, I think, claustrophobic to them. And if that constriction is too much, especially if they're kind of being hinted, whether it's a blind or a tree stand that's nearby or something that seems a little fishy, they'll be less likely to go through that. So it's kind of a balance, I guess, is what I'm saying. But anyway, we're going to finish just a little bit of edge feathering today. I also wanted to show you, 2 years ago when I did some of that Norway spruce planting, we also did some Austrian pine, a little diversity. Wanted to mix it up. We're still probably at that 50% or so growth rate, which I'm not mad about, since, that's kind of the path I chose when I didn't want to put weed barrier down. You can see these guys right here. There's a good one over there, pretty good stem. And so there's probably 4 right here out of 8 that, maybe 8 to 10, something like that I planted. And there's a couple other groups around, but you can see, and I pulled some of the weeds from around these, but you can see some of the competition that they had. Looking back, and especially now this year, I'm talking to you about doing these other willow cuttings and different stuff with weed barrier and fencing again, which I'll be going over with you guys in April. But it would not have been too much work to buy a roll, too much additional work. Roll get a 6 foot wide roll. This is advice from Tom over at Big Rock Trees. He was super nice. If you guys need help, you're thinking about doing that, walked me through what some other people are utilizing and how they're utilizing some of the stuff that I haven't used before. But like a 6 foot wide weed barrier, if you come a foot off of each edge and then stagger it, they're still 4 feet apart, depending on what you're trying to do, whether it be a screen or added bedding, things like that. It would have been very easy for me to just roll that out, since I staggered them pretty much the exact same way, if you can kind of see staggered. It it would have been the exact same thing and probably taken me 30 seconds more. Now, I remember I did all these in one day. My back literally felt next to broken when I was done, and got home quite late at night. But same thing, you know, maybe taking 2 days and just kind of leaving the trees and the saplings moist until you get back the next day, and got these in with some weed barrier. I bet you they would be a little bit taller and maybe more better survival rate. So just something to think about if you guys are going my way, the little bit lazy approach. Maybe I can sway you to kind of put that weed barrier down. You can get them rolls, again, 6 foot wide by like 300 feet. Just cut the strips that you want. But anyway, still happy to see those. They look a little different, excited to see how they grow. Hopefully I can, you know, maybe help out with the weeds a little with a weed whip, as they are much more noticeable now, especially in the winter. Obviously, when spring and summer gets here, they'll be much harder to find, but easier now that they're a couple of feet tall. Instead of, you know, 12, 18 inches, they'll be 24 to 36 and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some cutting. If I do get back to deeper in the woods, I'll take you guys with me. If I don't, then I'll just be finishing the edge feathering today and back hopefully in the near future. All right, we just finished up a pocket over there. Not the finger, but one of the same pockets that you guys have seen probably multiple videos on, unless you're new to the channel. But you can see also over there a tiny oak with its leaves still on that we released. So hopefully in the next few years, those are looking a little bit better. There's probably 2 of them like that. They're not super big, but they're fairly straight. You can just see, like that one, for example, there's only leaves on one side. So hopefully in a few years, it's looking a lot more healthy and potentially really worth our while to do that. So I think we're done with here. Wanted to mention real quick, guys, I mean, you can still see quite a few trees. There is kind of a balance between, you know, select cutting to the point where you actually don't really do too much. You do create some side cover, but if the basal area is that high, meaning that the number of, you know, not just the number of trees, but the square inches of trees in an acre, you know, then you're not letting in enough sunlight to do any benefit. So bear that in mind, and that's why oftentimes we take the approach of finding things like an aspen pocket, right? Where we have a small, you know, grove, whether it be a 1/4 acre, a little less, a little more, and you can kind of level that, get those 1,000 shoots per acre regenerating. And you know sunlight's gonna be coming in because you just, for the most part, leveled a little area. Unlike maybe where you're releasing, let's say, a good size oak in your woods, and you knock a couple few trees, but that oak's already got a big canopy and really no more sunlight is getting down. Now that tree still might get the benefit, but if you're doing it for, you know, a bedding area, then you know, outside of a little bit of side cover, you kind of got to weigh, you know, how much you can cut in that area to get the benefit. So something I thought I would mention real quick. I also did find a couple other groups of this Austrian pine where there's only, you know, one or two of the trees. So definitely probably worth your while to make sure you focus on the weed barrier, the sunlight, and the water. Of course, it does depend a little bit on what you're planting. For example, red osier dogwood likes a little more wet ground, and things of that nature. So, and some will be more tolerant. Off to the woods. Ooh, what do you guys think of this hairdo? It's the lumberjack cut. Wanted to give you one last example, and that'll be it for today. But we have a bunch of oak. Most of this is white oak, but this whole little area is basically covered in them, and we definitely don't get enough sunlight in here because, one, this guy is quite large, and then you know, we have a bunch of subordinate oak, some oak that, you know, was just kind of split off on different ends, or maybe it's just younger, but at the same time some of these are just a nice straight, they're nice, they should be producing. And so we got rid of some of the younger ones, open up some of the floor, even some of the medium-sized ones, I would say. They actually hinge quite well, guys. I've done them before, but just kind of forgot how well they hinge. So that's a little benefit if you do need to do some oak. But we still have plenty of standing. And then on top of that, we needed to open up the sunlight, right? Because I will be danged if I cut all these oak, we don't get enough sunlight into here, and then all of these die. Because most of these were hinges, but you can still tell even before I cut all this. I mean, this was pretty barren. But on the outskirts, we have field switchgrass still surrounding our open areas, and then we have, you know, a little thicket here. So that's what I wanted to leave you with today. It's been fun. I'm ready to go relax, back to the grind tomorrow. So hope you guys had a good holiday weekend, and we'll see you next time.